Welcome back. And of course, Israel and the Middle East very much in the news these days. And I am so honored to have with us today Josh Hasten. He's the international spokesperson for Yesha Council, representing the Jewish communities in Judea and Samaria, a Middle East correspondent with JNS, and the co-host of JNS podcast, Jerusalem Minute. He also is a host of the weekly Israel Uncensored, which is a radio program there on the Land and Israel Radio Network. An award-winning freelance journalist. He writes regularly for JNS and other publications, and he's in Judea. It does have a website, and that is, of course, jns.org. jns.org, that's the place to go to find out what's going on in Israel and the Middle East. Josh, good to see you. How are you, friend?
I'm doing well. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you. I apologize for the earlier mix-up, but thank you for your time. Are you in Judea at the moment?
Yes, sir. Just south of Jerusalem, the eternal capital of the state of Israel and the Jewish people.
Thank you. Wow. Okay, so we understand Israel's pretty much made the decision, at least the Security Cabinet, to occupy fully Gaza. Can you tell us what that looks like and means?
Absolutely. So, yes, just the other night, the Security Cabinet met in Jerusalem and decided they were going to expand the operation against the Hamas terrorist organization, of course, as a result of the October 7th massacre. So until now, Israel has been in Gaza for about a year and a half since the massacre, and Israel has taken over certain areas only to evacuate them. And what Hamas has been doing is been popping their heads up. Any area where the IDF evacuates, Hamas has come back, and Israel has to go in time and time again. So now the government has decided no more of that. Any area which Israel takes over, they will remain and stay in that area. The IDF will maintain a security presence, forcing Hamas to essentially run for their lives, isolating Hamas, getting them out of the way of the civilian population in Gaza, which they've been using as human shields all this time. And the goal, of course, is the destruction of Hamas, getting back our hostages, and ensuring that Hamas is no longer a threat to the state of Israel. So we're going to see an intensification very shortly if everything goes according to the current plan.
So are they doing what they normally do, and that is give warning to the citizens in that area before they go in?
Yeah, so the citizens will probably be moving, from what I understand, from the north of Gaza further down into safe zones in the south. The U.S. administration and international organizations will be supplying humanitarian aid down there. And the IDF hopes, again, to distance that, I'll say, so-called civilian population, because you had a lot of so-called civilians who took part in that October 7th massacre, to distance them from Hamas so that Israel can strike Hamas directly. Those who hate Israel and make up lies and propaganda against Israel accuse Israel of targeting civilians, women and children, and that is absolutely false. That is a blood libel. That is not the case. Israel does not target women and children or civilians. They target Hamas, which time and time again uses their own civilians purposefully as human shields in order to try and direct fire and try to win this propaganda war which Hamas has been launching.
Is it true, Josh, that 40% of the tunnels still exist?
So I can't verify that. There are all sorts of different rumors out there in terms of how many tunnels still exist percentage-wise, but I can say that Israel has significantly dented Hamas's ability to use those terror tunnels throughout the course of the war over the last 15 months. I can't give you an exact number. A lot of different rumors are flying. One thing I can tell you is if you're hearing any information out of the so-called Gaza Ministry of Health, that actually is basically a branch of Hamas. It is Hamas. So anything we hear out of Hamas, we can't believe. A new report came out here over the last day or two indicating that the numbers that Hamas was using in terms of the women, civilians, and children who were killed was greatly inflated. Hamas, of course, using that for their propaganda purposes.
Okay, so I understand that Israel's very concerned about the hostages, rightfully so. So is America. But is there a little bit of an attitude change among Israelis for the government now to go in and finish the job?
I think those two things are intertwined. Number one, getting the hostages back, and number two, destroying Hamas entirely. And the current plan, based on what we know now in terms of the Security Cabinet decision, is to put a maximum pressure campaign against Hamas to force them to release the hostages. Until now, Hamas has not been negotiating in good faith. You still might have pockets of negotiations taking place, whether it's in Qatar or Egypt. That might happen over the next several days and weeks. And you have President Trump who's coming to the region here in just a week or so. That might still exist. But at the same time, right now, it looks like Israel's going to go full force into Gaza with maximum pressure via the military in order to force Hamas once and for all to give back the remaining 59 hostages. That includes live hostages and, unfortunately, those who have already been murdered by Hamas.
In the meantime, you got the Houthis lobbing missiles from Yemen to your airport. I don't know what's happening up there with Hezbollah, but obviously they're not completely gone. Is Israel getting enough military support from the United States to fight all these fronts at the same time?
So I think we have a tremendous friend in the White House with President Donald Trump. I think there's no doubt about it. I don't think there's any daylight between Prime Minister Netanyahu and President Trump. In terms of the Houthis, by the way, breaking news: the last hour or two, the IDF has taken out entirely the airport in the capital of Yemen, Sana'a, which has been used by the Houthis to launch these ballistic missile attacks against the state of Israel. You saw the images from just 2 days ago in which one of the Houthi missiles succeeded in penetrating Israel's defense systems and almost hit the airport, landed very, very close to the airport, creating a major crater in the ground. Nothing short of a miracle that people weren't seriously injured in that. But this just breaking news: Israel aircraft jets striking, military jets striking the capital of Yemen. Yesterday, Israel struck the port there in Yemen, used both of those facilities used by the Houthis to transport terrorists as terrorist infrastructure in order to launch these ballistic missiles. And again, it all goes back to Iran. Let's remember, Iran is the head of the octopus, whether it's Hezbollah, as you mentioned, in Lebanon, or the Houthis or any other terrorist organizations, Hamas certainly. They're all agents of the Islamic Republic of Iran.
Okay, so Josh, that does set up the big question. It just looks like it's a matter of time. Some action's going to be taken against Iran. I don't know if that's going to be Israeli-led, United States-led. It appears from our perspective here it'll be Israeli-led, supported by the United States. The question is, will it ultimately lead to regime change?
Well, first of all, we definitely need Iran to stop their ambitions of producing a nuclear weapon. The United States is taking a little bit of a different approach right now with negotiations. And I just heard today from sources indicating that the U.S. is going to enter into a fourth meeting with Iran sometime in the next several weeks. But that being said, Israel has been talking about this with Prime Minister Netanyahu for many, many years now. We cannot let Iran go nuclear. That is the greatest threat, not only to the state of Israel, but to the United States. They call us the little Satan. They call you in the U.S. the great Satan. So the ballistic missile program, the nuclear program, those must be dismantled. And ultimately, I would hope that we would have regime change in Iran for the sake of the Iranian people who don't want to live under that regime anymore. We know the people of Iran, the vast majority, support the state of Israel. They can't do so openly and publicly. You can't do that, or you could get killed by your own government there. But ultimately, I think we're talking about a regime change, and Iran should have only good times ahead once those in charge, the mullahs in Iran, are dismantled.
It's been over a year now since October 7th, year and a half. How are the citizens doing in Israel? What's the mood here?
So I'm just talking to you now, and I'm hearing children outside my window now playing soccer out here, what they call football in this part of the world. But, the sacrifices made by the brave men and women of the IDF, they're the ones who are ensuring that people like myself and those not in the military and kids can go to school and kids can go about their business and families can go out for dinner. That's just the tip of the iceberg. But as difficult as it has been, and again, we just talked about tens of thousands of reservists called up, some of them serving for over 200 or 300 days. As difficult as it has been, failure in this small country is not an option. So our soldiers are on the front lines protecting us on all fronts. Israel's currently on a war on 7 different fronts. They're on the front lines. And, we are optimistic that ultimately Israel will prevail. It certainly has taken a long time, no doubt about it. But at the end of the day, we have no other option. Failure is not an option for us.
Will Saudi Arabia become part of the Abrahamic Accord?
It's very possible. There was a report today I saw at a JNS News where Steve Witkoff, the U.S. envoy, hinted at a Israel Independence Day celebration several days ago in Washington, hinted that the Abraham Accords are moving forward. I don't believe he mentioned a specific country, but certainly Saudi Arabia would like to join the Abraham Accords. They they understand the threat of the Iranians, which are, a country which is bordering them. They know Iran is a threat. And I think they very much would like to take advantage of the opportunities as the other countries did, the United Arab Emirates, Morocco, and the other countries who now have a normalization deal with the state of Israel. It benefits all parties. I truly believe the Saudis will be the next ones to fall in line and sign some sort of normalization deal with Israel. I don't know when. It might have to wait until the war is over. That remains to be seen. But I would guess, from what I know, that they are the next ones in line.
One last question. In the long run, what do you think happens to Egypt? And the reason I ask that question, it appears now that they've been complicit with these tunnels and letting, Hamas be re-energized by equipment and resources entering the tunnels in their country. I mean, now they're complicit to this whole mess. What happens to them long term?
Yeah, it's a very good question. Egypt and Israel have a peace treaty all the way back to 1979. And unfortunately, for years, it appears that Egypt turned a blind eye as Hamas, as you said, dug those terror tunnels, allowing those weapons into Gaza from Egypt. It's hard to say, where they stand. Several weeks ago, it was reported that Egypt was building up their military in the Sinai. Why would they build up their military in the Sinai? Are they preparing to launch an attack against the state of Israel? So it's a big question mark. I hope that they are not prepared, that they're not interested, rather, in opening an eighth front against the state of Israel in violation of the peace treaty by having those troops even there in the Sinai desert. So they're a big question mark right now. Things are quiet relatively on that front, but there is some tension there with those troops moving, with the fact that, by the way, how many of those people who would like to leave Gaza have been able to do so and go into Egypt? The number is very, very low. Egypt actually reinforced their border. If you saw images of the Egyptian border, they've reinforced it not to let any type of humanitarian aid into Gaza or let people out who want to flee the front lines of a war. So they're a big question mark right now. It remains to be seen on what side of history they want to be on. Do they want to maintain their peace deal with Israel? Or perhaps, hopefully not, are they perhaps interested in getting to an orbit with Hamas, with Iran? I hope that's not the case.
Wow. You're fascinating. Can we get you back? I'm sorry for a short visit, but you're fascinating. Let me say to our viewers and listeners, jns.org. That's where Josh and the team there at JNS, these are terrific people. So check it out, JNS, the Jerusalem News Syndicate.org. Thank you, friend. We'll get you back soon.
Sounds great. Have a great day.
You too.